Hey, hunting family, you are tuning into the Tracks and Tackle podcast, brought to you by Menser Outdoors.
Hey, what is up, hunting family? We got a full house tonight. What's going on, guys?
What's up, brother? And my real brother.
What's up, guys?
Yeah.
How y'all doing?
Got Josh and Chris with me, and we're coming at you live. We're going to try this another way tonight. We usually pre-record, which works really well for editing. But tonight's episode, we're live streaming it, and I think we've got this down. So bear with us, folks. I got a great announcement to start the show. When we started Menser Outdoors a couple of years ago, we started, just posting our videos and our hunts and different stuff on a YouTube channel at Menser Outdoors, and we continue to do that. We're just whatever we're doing outside, whether we're camping, whether we're hiking, whether we're teaching, we're training a dog to track, or just doing anything outside, fishing. We're posting those stories so you can follow the journey. And we started the podcast, the Tracks and Tackle podcast, and started throwing those. They would stream, the audio would stream on the Menser Outdoors channel. But that at some point, I made the decision to start a Menser Outdoors, or separate from the Menser Outdoors, I started Tracks and Tackle YouTube page. And we've been simultaneously running video on the Tracks and Tackle YouTube page while running audio on the Menser Outdoors page. And I think we made the decision that we're gonna completely carve those out, make them separate. So we'll continue to post cool hunting content and outdoor content videos on Menser Outdoors, but you'll no longer be able to hear the podcast audio on the Menser Outdoors YouTube channel. You're going to have to go directly to the Tracks and Tackle channel, subscribe, hang out with us, drop a comment, tell us, different stories and stuff that you want to hear us talk about. But that's major breaking news. You're the first to hear it.
Yeah, right on. Moving up.
Just made the decision.
Just right now. Thought it out. Done.
So, Chris, tell me how it's been, man. How you doing?
Good, man. Been sweating in this summer heat, but hanging out and already thinking about duck season and how I'm going to build blinds and where I'm going to put. Josh and I mostly hunt deer in Maryland, and we can do something you guys in Pennsylvania can't do, and that's put out corn. So
it's a different style of hunting for sure.
Especially when you have kids, it's a really cool thing to have that set up. Love it or shove it. That's what we do down here in below the Mason-Dixon. So,
no doubt. What's up, Josh? Thanks for coming back and hanging out tonight.
Hey, no problem, guys. I'm glad to be back. And Ron, I mean, from what we've talked about, this is a good time to go live because some of these stories that you brought to our attention, they're like hot right now, all flying all over social media. So getting this content out right now, quick to your audience. I mean, it's a good time to do it. And these are some hot topics to get onto.
Yeah, no doubt. This is episode 81, and it's titled Carp, Crime, and Controversy. So we got some current events we're going to touch on tonight, and certainly we'll read through some articles and bring you some outdoors news stories. There's actually a lot happening in the in the world from an outdoors perspective. And so maybe we can touch on some of those things, but we prepared a few short stories to review together. So let's just get into it, unless you guys got any other news and announcements.
No, let's dig in, brother.
Yeah,
All
man.
right, so we're gonna hit 3 stories tonight. So stay tuned. We're gonna set you up with the first one. June 18th, Gifford's Pinchot State Park. So this was about mid-month. We're recording on the 1st of July. Chris sent this to me in a text like a week ago or whatever. I'm like, man, we got to just talk about this because this is nuts. And for those that are watching, I want to see if I can share my screen. Let me pull this up. This is, let me see this. See if I can do this right. Got it. Let me know if you guys are watching what I'm throwing out here.
I am. Yep.
No doubt. All right. So park ranger allegedly strangled by wanted man during a fishing license dispute. Now the news just keeps getting crazier.
Yeah.
And this is like, if you didn't know better, you'd think this is like a made up story. But let me read this and then we can get into it, because I got a opinion on this. Christopher Avery, 42, of York, allegedly strangled a park ranger at Gifford Pinchot State Park on June 18th, per the police. Previously, wanted man has been arrested in York County for he allegedly strangled a park ranger in Warrington Township on the 18th. He faces 8 charges, including aggravated assault, strangulation, resisting arrest, simple assault, harassment, flight to avoid apprehension, obstruction, administration, law enforcement, and possession, all display of license. So, that's the story. We're going to get into this. Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So as I read this story, you sent this to me. My man is just fishing at the park, minding his own business, and the Rangers are doing what they do. You know, I'm thankful for the DCNR. They're rolling through. They're making sure everything's safe, everything's good, and they see this guy start to pack up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a telltale sign as he's starting to pack up his stuff when he sees the Ranger truck rolling in. So they do a stop and they check him, and it turns south pretty quick. You want to try to tell the story in your own words?
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like what you just said, Ron. I mean, this guy, is fishing a state park, knew he didn't have a license, sees the green jeans coming, and does the old, pack and play. And the old Phil Robertson drop the rod and run, right?
Right.
Then it escalates quickly. So and it's a touchy subject for a lot of us that like to hunt and fish, especially on state places that you already are paying taxes for. I mean, it's a subject that we all talk about. Should you have to pay for licenses for this? Should you not? We all can spin the web of, we know where the money goes for this stuff, right? They can justify that, but is it, it's a two-edged sword. And then on my point, as somebody that works in law enforcement, I mean, your first sworn thing in law enforcement is to protect your community, right?
Right.
So law enforcement officer doing his job, doing that or whatever like that. But then you kind of get into a gray area where, like, okay, it's a fishing license. This escalated into a big battle.
There's an altercation, right? I mean, they checked the guy, and he wasn't going lightly,
right?
And he's being accused of strangling one of the park rangers.
Yeah, so again, your first thing as any type of law enforcement officer is you're sworn to protect the Constitution and the laws of your state that you're in, or whatever, at any level of law enforcement that you work in. But then your second thing that I mentioned before is you've got to keep the community safe. So there's your gray area. Is this guy's doing his job, but is he making it better? Is he making this a better place by escalating this? I wasn't there, so we can't Monday morning quarterback it, right? We don't know what happened. And if you read that a certain way, you can almost take that as, did the guy have a warrant already? Because it says a wanted man was arrested. Does
Right.
that mean you have a warrant? I don't know, but it's a gray area, and one of the things they teach you in any type of, again, law enforcement training or any academy is, sometimes you have to pick your battles, and I'm not saying that guy shouldn't have done it, but sometimes is the juice worth the squeeze on that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For a fishing license, and then again, you get back into, do we really need these fishing licenses and stuff, especially at these state parks? Even me, I've had altercations, not physical, but I've had park rangers come up to me and not be pleasant for just riding around or hanging out with the kids. And you're like, this is a state park, dude. Like, I'm just taking a ride, so even someone, again, like me, I don't usually talk about my work or whatever like that, but that works with what I do. It puts a bad taste in my mouth. Does that make sense at all to you guys?
Yeah, and I'm on the same page. It's a double-edged sword, because like you said, now I live in Maryland, and our taxes are a little bit different. And for the most part, I know where my hunting and fishing licenses go. Like, I know where the money goes into this conservation, into these research projects. But at the same time, it's like I am paying taxes already for the state that I'm in, for these things that I'm doing. And I've had good and bad altercations with or good and bad interactions with the game wardens, both in Pennsylvania and Maryland. More on the good than the bad side. I've had opportunities to talk where they've been very pleasant to me, and I've had opportunities where they've been a little crappy with me. And I don't. Again, you don't know their full situation, or who they dealt with prior to coming over to you, but in my mind, and this is how I look at a lot of things, is that if I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't have anything to worry about. Now I make some okay money. I can afford to get my license and my stamps, and I've done the research and been doing this my whole life, so I know what stamps to get. And now that I'm getting more into the public land because we're doing more duck hunting on the bay and down in those tributaries, and taking these trips up to Green Ridge State Park, and even going down to Blackwater Reserve to go fish for snakeheads. I mean, you're gonna find game wardens at these places, and they're going to talk to you. So you go into those highly populated, heavily fished areas or heavily hunted areas. That's something you have to expect at this point in time. So mind your P's and Q's. Keep all your stuff together, keep it legal, and you don't have anything to worry about. As long as you're respectful to them, they're going to be respectful to you, even if they do have a bad attitude at the beginning.
Yeah, and even on the reverse side, a lot of times if you mess up, and Rangers have said this, hey man, I don't have my license. All right, let's figure this out.
Right.
Let's figure this out. I mean, you have that with no matter whether it's civil stuff too. I mean, marijuana is a big thing right now, but you can get arrested for it in certain places you can't, and these guys will end up getting in fights or seriously injured, pulling people over because they smell weed. Is that wrong? They did that? No. But is that worth somebody getting hurt or injured,
Here's a question about the story that I have yet to get resolution to. Did this guy have any fish? Was he in possession of whatever he was fishing for, or?
Yeah, I'm the same way, Josh. I couldn't figure that out. I heard it on the radio. I got in my truck one morning to go to work, and the local country radio was on. They were talking about it, almost like in a silly.
Yeah. As I read the article, I mean, it basically just said when the cops got there, Pennsylvania State Police, he began to resist arrest, and the ranger was in. I don't know if the ranger was being treated or medically evacuated to the hospital. So it didn't say anything about, him having anything caught, but that's it. Like, there's always details, and there's always more than one side to a story as well.
Yeah.
I was having some mic issues, so it was actually my earphones weren't catching everything that you guys were talking through, but this is an interesting topic because, and I'm sure you guys touched on it, because personally, I buy my license, even if I'm not going to use it. I understand conservation efforts. I understand where the money's supposed to go, all that. right? I'm very supportive of, I'll buy a license for something I'm not even going to hunt necessarily because I'm pro wildlife and outdoors.
Mhm.
I'm also very, like, my heels are dug in on government overreach and overregulation.
Mhm.
And it's like, man, you got to like regulate everything, even like our great outdoors.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of torn on this, which is what made it a super cool story to talk about, because I don't want to be able to, I want to self-regulate.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we live in a world where not everybody has the maturity to be able to self-regulate. And so we have to have laws and structure, put in place for them. And so, like, this was a super interesting conversation that Kris and I were able to have whenever he first sent me the article, because, he's looking at it from maybe from a law enforcement perspective. And
Mhm.
I'm looking at it maybe more of a don't tread on me,
Yeah.
Perspective.
I'm
And
leaning that way too. I mean, I'm
there's
that way
both
too.
sides to the story.
Yeah.
That's my point. Like, did he have any fish? There's always more to the story.
Yeah. And see, Josh and I, talk about government overreach. We talk about this a lot. Like, so we grew up in Maryland. Josh lives there still. Our family deer hunting farm is in Maryland. Okay. Our dad owns the property. Our grandfather passed it on to him, but my dad lives in Pennsylvania, lives in Adams County, just below Gettysburg. But he owns the property. It's on his name. Used to be in the state of Maryland back in the day. Even Josh and I, if we were literally grandfather owned it, and we worked to maintain the property. The deer hunt at that time, we didn't have to have a license in Maryland.
To hunt
Now,
on that property.
on that
On your own
property,
property.
yes, hunt that property. If we worked it and we were that way, and then it changed a little bit where the owner of the property didn't have to have a license. Well, my dad owns it, but because he lives in Pennsylvania, he has to buy a license. Now, my dad is
A
a
non-resident
dedicated,
license at that.
non-resident ones. Now, our dad is by the book. He's going to do it and do it how
Sure.
it's supposed to be done, right? Because it's supposed to be done. But it gets to the point you're like, okay, I'm feeding my family. You know, um, Josh has some big deer behind him there, but like I shoot the first thing I see most of the time. I'm not out there trying to get big bucks or manage them. So it's a gray area for me. Josh, you can kind of piggyback off that if you want.
Yeah, so I mean that's just how we grew up. I mean, for a long time it was the landowner, the son of a land, or it was a landowner, the child of a landowner, grandchild of a landowner. If they worked that property, made any sort of their living or their income on that property, then they were allowed to hunt that property license free. And I want to say, Kris, it was the mid 2000s, early 2000s, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, that the law changed to then it was only the landowner and the child of a landowner could do it, even if they didn't make money. But yeah, I literally remember the first time I bought my hunting license. I may have been 19 or 20 years old, and I had been hunting for 5 or 6 years at that time.
Yeah.
And being like, I physically had to go to Walmart. I had no idea what to do. They were like, "Oh, you need your hunter safe," because I'd never had to do it. We could always we were legally allowed to check deer in from that property, even when we had to go to the old school check stations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just a little bit of the history from our end. Hey, Ron, have you ever had any run-ins with the green genes, either good or bad?
No, I mean, frankly, we've been really, really fortunate. We, we do things on the up and up. We do our best. I mean, I won't say that I've never done any type of outlawing when I was younger,
Yeah.
but, we, from the game commission's perspective, we've always had a pretty good relationship with them. Now we've been followed by the game commission. We used to drive deer a lot, and we'd kill a bunch of deer because we have a big group of guys, and we'd push one farm and we kill. The farmers wanted the deer killed, and so we were we'd get a gang together, we get a roster of guys, and we would drive. When I cut my teeth hunting, we did a lot of that. And I remember one year, I don't know, somebody was complaining about our group just in the neighborhood killing all the deer, whatever. And so, we were trailed a lot to make sure that we were doing things by the book.
Right.
But we always did everything on the up and up on the right, and never had any, knock on wood, never had any issues. The game wardens have always been pretty good, and we've got a question or whatever, they've been very helpful in educating on what you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. And so like even if you go to the sportsman show and you go up to the PA game commission booth or whatever, like those guys are great. They're there to help you out and educate. So never had any personal issues with the game commission. But I just, my DNA is, I'm like, man, don't regulate me, especially if it's your property, like you guys were saying. I am a proponent of, you should be able to do what you want with your end place. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I've had run-ins, good and bad too. I've had run-ins with people that I work with that are just a-holes. There's a place that we Maryland for waterfowl. It's along a pretty popular road, and we park the trucks there so everybody knows what you're doing, right? And 2 or 3 times we've come out of there, and they come pulling up behind us with the local law enforcement, with the sheriff's department that I work for. And I'm like, what are you doing? I know you. And like I'm legit. And the guy they're doing it just to be, they're not there to talk and chew the fat with you.
Yeah.
I had one time that I did make a mistake early in my duck hunting thing. And the guy was super cool. My wife had she bought me a shotgun for Christmas one year at Dick's. And it was actually like a home defense shotgun. It was a Mossberg 500, but she bought me the home defense version, which is super cool. But I ended up getting a different barrel for it so I could duck hunt with it. Josh has killed a ton of ducks with it. My boys have killed. It's just a dead on. It's a $200 shotgun that we probably killed. How many hundreds of ducks have we killed with that? It's just a dead on shotgun. But I say all that because I didn't realize, not even thinking about it, it was a home defense shotgun. It didn't have a plug in it. So we're down on public land in Maryland. And here comes a DNR guy again, super cool. I mean, just the epitome of what you want to happen. And he's like, hey, you got a plug? And I said, hey, bro, I messed up. I didn't even think about it. There's no worries, man. This is what you need to do. And we went about our day.
I think the moral of the story is, don't be a jerk, don't go to hand-to-hand combat. Like that shouldn't be your first.
Right.
This is an alleged story on this guy. None of us were there, but these guys are just doing their jobs out there, and you think about it, it's probably a pretty cool job to have. Working outdoors.
No, and again, before we go to the next topic, there's ways you can dive down this rabbit hole because Pennsylvania has some that are semi-volunteer, that are not really full law enforcement. And I'm not knocking this guy at all. I'm not saying anything detrimental at all when I say this, but how much was this guy, and was he trying to be this? And you just don't know that part. Was he trying to be nasty to the guy? Was he trying to flex his muscle and be that guy? You don't know. The end result is that nothing of that should have happened, and you can't argue that point. But you could probably just start with one guy chirping off, and the next guy saying, well, you're not gonna talk to me that way, and things can escalate really quick when you got testosterone involved. Yeah.
If there's anybody out there that knows more about this story, let us know, because there's a bunch of gaps in it that I'd like filled in for me personally. Just for
no doubt.
I know the radio thing and then the little article that we just read. So if there's resolution to it or part to us, let us know and we'll talk about it.
All right. Well, we're gonna stick with fishing, and let me see. There's a ton of pop-ups on this. But I want to throw this picture up for you guys. This is nuts. We're going to talk about this guy caught himself a state record. It's Connecticut. This is from Outdoor Life. Tournament angler smashes Connecticut record with 58-pound carp from Lake Zor. So this is also, this was published last week. And just check out this size of this thing. What was it? It was,
it was like
58 pounds.
Yeah, 50 something pounds.
So what do you think of this off of just before we even get into it, Josh? I know you came on before and we were talking fishing. What's your initial thought when you see that that carp there, because carp isn't something people traditionally fish.
Not, yeah, especially not for, trophy carp. I mean, I know they're coming in as a big sport fish when, for bow fishing, up around this way. But man, that is a monster. And from what I was reading, he used some sort of homemade bait, some sort of, breadcrumbs and fish emulsion or something like that he made himself to, and he was specifically targeting carp. I mean, I think he represents some sort of U.S. Fishing thing, some nonprofit organization that he works for and fishes for, specifically targeting these trophy carp in these rivers. But yeah, man, that's definitely the catch of a lifetime for sure.
Yeah. So the article says he's a tournament angler from Westchester County, New York. And he officially hit the Connecticut state record when he hauled in this 58.5 pound, 44.8 inch common carp from Lake Zor, according to Connecticut Fish and Wildlife. So the previous state record was beat by more than 13 pounds. And yeah, he did say that he made his own bait, He lured the carp with the giant carp with a boilie, which is a round hard-boiled bait typically made of flour, eggs, and fish meal that was enhanced with the one-on bait flavoring. So he enhanced it, but it's flour, eggs, fish meal, and a little bit of flavoring. And obviously he wouldn't give up the exact coordinates of the honey hole, but that's the way we are with our fishing. But that's an incredible haul.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about when Josh was on last time, the big rockfish that we caught. How much was that, Josh?
40? It was 40 couple pounds. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head.
But that felt like a
30 something pounds, 40 inches.
That felt like we were reeling in a Jeep.
And then what do you think a fight like that would be on a fish that size?
Yeah. So
and a carp is a fighting fish too. Like they will not go easily into that night. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to put up a fight, especially when they got a hook in their mouth.
Yeah, I've caught a couple small ones here locally, but that's dead weight. Try to get that in, and it's a funny thing because there's a lot of guys that consider them trash fish, but then there's the complete other spectrum, like you guys were saying, that just target those guys.
So let's talk about that. There's seems to be a trend.
Yeah.
There's a rise in carp fishing.
Yeah. Just like those guys that target snakeheads with us, they have friends that'll just target carp, because you can go around. This time of year is the perfect time to do it. And Josh will tell you, these local ponds that have some overhang or vegetation, you'll hear them get stuck in the weeds splashing, and they're sucking stuff off the top of the water. You'll see them. So they're a fairly easy target fish. And again, they're getting big for bow hunters and stuff. The issue is they don't taste good, so people aren't targeting them for that. But if you just want to catch a big fighting fish, like Josh said, I mean, they'll pull your rod in the water. I was fishing for catfish one time and had my rod and line set up on a pole, and it started to go. And it probably was a 5-pound one, which is not little, but it's not like that thing. And you ever caught any of them on your line, Josh, or you just got them before?
I have actually never caught a carp in my life. I have been the first time or two that we went out snakehead fishing. Timmy hooked up on 2 or 3 carp, but no, I've never personally caught a carp. It's never something I've specifically targeted. I know that they're real heavily stocked up in Liberty Reservoir, which is right up the road from me. I know a lot of people go there and fish for carp, and you can do it right off the bridge with a can of cream corn. Throw a little bit out in the water, get them chumming up a little bit, and then you throw some on your hook, and a lot of people have a good time doing it. Now, from my perspective, from my point of view, is people say that carp is a fish that they're not going to eat, and I've never tasted it, but I don't shy away from trying new things. I would definitely try one if I caught one, but knowing that going into it, that's not something I'm going to target because, I'm not a sport fisherman. I'm I'm a fisherman to feed myself fisherman. That's why, catching these big, trophy stripers anymore, they're fun to hook up on. They are, and I'm never going to deny that. It's a fun fight all the time. But I'm targeting those ones that I'm allowed to keep. I'm going out for the catfish to fill my cooler and the perch to fill my cooler, and I'm trying to go down to Ocean City hopefully sometime in the next couple of weeks for some flounder, and I'm not doing that for the sport of it. I'm doing it because I want to eat the darn things.
Yeah. I've never had carp before, and that's what everybody says. They're kind of like a trash fish. They're bottom feeders, but I think about catfish. Catfish are feeding off the bottom too, and catfish are great eating. So I'm no expert on this, but certainly if you're listening or watching and have a comment, just weigh in on this. Have you ever tried carp? Because there seems to be like a rise in competitive carp fishing.
Yeah,
that I was unaware of before I saw the story.
I've never tried it. There's a really cool article, and I'll try to send it to you, Ron, if I can find it on Meat Eater's page, where they do a show called Meat Eater Roast, where they cook stuff that normally or traditionally people say is not good, right? And then a lot of it ends up being good, or just old wives' tales, or they cooked it a certain way that it's good. They cooked carp, and I don't think it was that great. But there's a real big traditional thing in like the upper Midwest, Michigan, Wisconsin, where it might be during Lent or during different times of year, or every Friday they had carp. That's what these families had. They did big carp fries.
Wow.
And a lot of it's tied in with the old religious areas up there, but there's a really cool article that talks about that. The thing, I've caught a couple of them, and the guys that are fishing, like Eddie Weber would probably tell you, or even Shane that came on before, like they once you catch them, they emit this really gross slime.
Mm-hmm.
So not only that, they're hard to hold. And I can't remember. I did read the article, but I don't remember. Did that guy keep that, or did he let it go? How's that work for a record? Do you have to take it somewhere? I know sometimes they'll take it to like even a Bass Pro Shop or something like that where it gets
have it verified. I mean, I'm sure he had to measure it himself, submit pictures, whether he kept it or not. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't dive any further into it than the article that Ron sent us, and then actually a friend of mine had sent me a very similar article to that one about the same guy, a couple of days prior. But it doesn't say whether he kept it or released it, does it? I don't believe.
Yeah, I'm looking through it right now. Just says, where the fisherman actually grew up in Hungary. He's part of the USA Carp Squad that represents the U.S. and international stage through U.S. Angling.
Okay.
It's kind of a nonprofit on the growing competitive sport fishing. And it just says that, obviously since they're still snubbed by anglers as trash fish, they're hard fighting and gaining respect amongst sport fishers in the U.S. His record was officially recognized by Connecticut DEP yesterday, and is now listed with the other noteworthy cats. So, I mean, he had to document it somehow.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny that you say Hungary, because I think off the top of my head that people that ate them, they were from somewhere in Europe. It was a big, cultural thing, and that was a big thing for them over there. So
it's a cool story, man. Real cool story. Well, let me transition to this last one. And this, you know how the news does, like they end on a lighter note.
This one blows my mind.
This guy, I mean, so I get this stuff on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm just like, I drill into these articles. And so the story, the gist of the story is my man submitted, is another world record. Wisconsin, they got big deer in Wisconsin, but this guy falsely claims a 49.306-inch buck as a fair chase trophy. So let me pull it up. And Josh, why don't you take us through this one?
So this guy, what's his name? Richard Waters. He bought this set of deer horns. I think it ended up being almost third party. posed with a deer in his truck, like he had just, taken this deer, submitted it for all. I'm sorry, I can't even get through it. It's so like, it's it's one of those things. Like it just in my brain, it makes no sense.
I think so. Let me
He
read
submitted it to be a state record, like it was a fair chase deer, and it was a deer that was definitely, picture proven raised on a deer farm.
Yeah, they got it documented.
Makes
So-
no sense to me. Like, are you that desperate to be popular?
Well, so here's the thing. Like when interviewed, and the article says, like, I'm stupid. Yes. It says Wisconsin man who tried to claim the 49-point high fence. Like when they busted him, he said it wasn't a well thought through plan. He didn't it wasn't super premeditated. And even I think somewhere in the article, it says that this guy probably wasn't going for like a state record. He just thought it would be like top 2, top 3. And he didn't realize how big the antlers actually were.
Yeah.
Right.
300 couple inches. Like, come on.
And I don't think he knew that it was going to beat the previous record, which I guess is still the record by what?
It's
Almost
253 inch is the current record.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even close.
Oh man, that so this story's been popping up all over social media. I mean, it's everywhere. It's on
events.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's literally everywhere. And every time I see the headline pop up, man, I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing because it just it's one of those things. Like to me, it literally makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like
you wonder what makes people tick.
Yeah,
what causes them to function the way that they do? Like, what was the end goal here? I mean, why would you?
Well,
some people just want fame, I guess. I don't know.
What did you think?
Ironically, on the back end of the spectrum, he's getting it, even though it's a little bit negative, and everybody in the world is like, "Man, this dude's an idiot." But guess what? He's getting his 15 minutes in the sun.
Here we are talking about him,
right?
Yeah, what leads to another thing that Josh and I talked about for whoever's listening and wants to get into it, and Joe Rogan's talked about it, Meat Eater's talked about it. Is it the Rumpala buck or Rumbala, Josh?
the Rumpala.
That's a great, crazy story, that you can get into, and that kind of ties, is that conspiracy? It's just a weird rabbit trail, and people this is where I draw the line with hunting. And again, Ron, you guys always say hunt your hunt. Everybody that wants to hunt their way, do it, whatever makes it enjoyable for you. But like the obsession with points and the scores, to me, like that is just so foreign to me. Like I'll shoot the biggest deer I see, and I want to shoot big deer, but to be that much where you're going to buy a rack, right, and be like, hey, check it out. No one's going to know. Everybody, like, every single person's going to know. And that's just so foreign to me, I don't know. What do you think, dude? Like, Ron's frozen in time, I think, right now.
Want to touch him? I mean, it's just, to me, okay, listen, if you want to go do those high fence hunts, or if you want to go to a game reserve and do that, and you have the money that you can afford to do that, specifically to shoot a big targeted animal, go do your thing, man. There's no judgment from me. I think there's a place right up in Pennsylvania, isn't it? Blue Knob, I think, Pennsylvania, where you can go shoot some exotics. And if that's your thing, man, if that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do it. But this trails me into a small conversation, Chris, that I was having earlier this week about. I was seeing these posts online of these guys claiming to be such great fishermen, but they go out fishing 2 or 3 times a year on these charters, where these charters are taking these guys, right to where the fish are. They're hooking them up on the fish. All this guy's doing is reeling in a fish, and he's claiming to be this, this big fisherman. And I don't know, in your opinion, would you think that, even like this guy or people that do the high fence hunts, do you think that they should even be able to call themselves, a sportsman at that point in time?
Yeah, I mean that's just a different thing because here's the bottom line. Like I say this about a lot of things. Like I wouldn't chase it, but I wouldn't turn it away.
Right.
I'm not gonna go after, spend all this thousands of dollars for that. But if someone laid that in your lap, hey, you have this opportunity,
Right.
big deal. Are you gonna do it? We're all gonna do it, and it's weird for me too. I had this conversation off camera with Ron, and I might have even showed you, Josh, at my house. I got a giant Euro mount buck. It's got a split brow tine. It's a monster deer, probably 150 inches,
Mhm.
and I didn't shoot it. My wife's grandfather goes to auctions, knew I was into hunting, bought this thing. So I was even kind of weird about even just having it in my house because I have no connection to it. I think it was a great gift. It's a cool gift someone thought about me. It's really cool. But, that to me is even almost kind of weird that I would have that, that's something Ron's like, hang it up. That's super cool,
Yeah, let me hop in, Chris, because Chris he asked me, he's like, man, this kind of feels awkward.
Yeah.
And my stance is, yeah, hunt your own hunt is what we say. So I don't care. Like, sure, we like to shoot big bucks, but I'm a meat hunter too. I've got meat in my freezer. I'm going to kill does. There's guys out there that say, they just refuse to hunt does. There's cases to be made for why we do what we do, and everybody has their opinion. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy it,
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell you not to go after it. Like, I like what you said, Chris. Like, I'm not going to chase it, but if it presents itself, like, I'm not going to turn it away either. So, specifically like that gift, like, look, you love outdoor stuff, you like to collect, you're a collector of things. It's a super cool prop.
Yeah.
So even though you don't have a story with it that, hey, I went out and I bagged this 150-inch buck, you still got this cool story that, hey, my wife's grandfather, thought of me, he got me this, and he brought it in, and it's part of my collection now.
Yeah.
The story's different, but you still have a story. And so, like, that's where I weigh in. Like, I wouldn't shy away. I'm not going to sit here and say that, like this guy or the Ron Paula story, like, say, hey man, I shot this and this is what we were doing. We got up at 5 a.m. and we crept in and, I got him at daylight. Don't make it up. Just own it. Like, hunt your hunt.
We should make it up though. We should make a different story that we just change every time you come over. That's a little bit.
Every time you come in, it's a different story about this.
Yeah.
This buck over my shoulder is
Yeah.
a different story every time. But yeah, I mean, even like duck hunting. So when you were saying about I wouldn't turn it away, like, I used to work for a company, and one of our vendors would give away a duck hunt. You've heard me tell this story before. And they take us down to Arkansas and to Stuttgart and set us up, and it's like duck hunting capital of the world. That's what I'm told. Like, I didn't know. I was not a duck hunter. I'm a bow hunter. And but I'm the only redneck guy in the company. So they send me. Like, Ron will go represent the company.
Yeah.
There are guys that went to that hunt that had never fired a shotgun in their life. And they were successfully killing birds because it was like shooting, like, what do you say, fish in a barrel. Like, there's just so many. The odds were such in your favor because you're at the right time of the year, the right place in the pattern. And so, like, should I turn that away, that opportunity to go and enjoy something like that, just because, it's not high fence hunting. I get it. It's not the same, but I'm just drawing the parallel.
No. To go full circle, I didn't mean to cut you off, Josh. Back to what we talked about when we first came on. I mean, in Maryland, we can put corn out, we can put minerals out, we can put feeders for deer. Does that make us any less of a hunter? Some people's eyes it might, but again, we're eating them, we're taking our kids out, and we're putting the work into finding where they are.
Right.
You have to shoot. You still have to shoot well.
It's just a different type of hunt.
Yeah, and that's what I said before too, we're going to have all kinds of t-shirts and stickers from my sayings from this show. I said, I won't chase it, but I won't turn it away. And I said, love it or shove it. When we first came on, that was a radio show when I was a kid on 98 Rock, Josh. Remember they would play a song at night?
Oh, yeah.
And if you could vote on if they were put in their rotation, that's what the show was called, Love It or Shove It.
New,
Yeah,
new
man.
segment, new segment on Tracks and Tackle.
Yeah. So.
Well,
that's
anyway, guys, I mean, it's an interesting story. I want to shift gears here and just sort of like wrap us up. We've been going for a little bit. It's cool to talk about these current events because they impact, like, not everybody follows these type of stories too. So even though you might be an outdoorsy person, if you're not like us, scrolling social feeds and texting one another and have your circle of people that are pointing these things out, you might not have heard these stories. So I just want to touch on, real quick. I saw this week that the PA Game Commission had made the announcement that we're one step closer to Sunday hunting in Pennsylvania, because that's another difference between Maryland and PA. And I think we're waiting on the governor to sign it. We're close to Sunday hunting, and I know that that's another thing where some guys weigh in and say you shouldn't hunt on Sundays because it's not the traditional thing. And then other guys like, it's one more day that I can get my kid out because I work full time and I can't get my kid involved. I got 2 days of the week, Saturday and Sunday, to get them interested.
Right.
So thoughts on it?
Good, Josh.
I mean, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing because the state of Pennsylvania, you guys, your whole school system is rooted in hunting. I mean, you guys, that firsthand. Every year, you guys get the first day of rifle season off for school. A lot of people take off work that day. Pennsylvania is founded on hunting. So I think adding an extra day in Pennsylvania, I think that's a great thing. I think that's an absolute great thing. We've had the privilege of doing it in Maryland, most of our lives on private land. So let's hope Josh Shapiro, man, get him to sign that bill. Get him to sign that thing. I mean, I think they're trying to expand it. I think there's already three Sundays you can hunt in Pennsylvania, right? You can hunt.
Yeah, three select weekends that they've done that the last 2 or 3 years. And they make that. I mean, I plan my hunting trips around them, whenever I'm going to go out to the cabin and do my hunt. So it's definitely, I'm embracing it. I know it's not for everybody, but this is a big story.
Yeah. I'm not against. I'm for it if anybody wants to do it. Personally, I don't like to do it. Just maybe that's just because we're raised old school with our dad being the preacher or whatever. I've hunted one time on a Sunday and I did kill a deer. But just even for like how my mindset works, on Sundays we're chilling, we're spending time with the family. I try not
Family day
on Sundays. The phones are down, and this is just me. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. Go out and enjoy your time that you have and
hunt your hunt. Yeah,
and Ted Nugent said in that one video you sent me about that stuff, who has the right to tell anybody what they can do when? That doesn't make sense to me. And then part of the stuff it doesn't make sense is in some states, and Maryland is this way, so you can hunt deer on Sundays, but you can't hunt waterfowl or rabbits or certain things. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
it's full circle. So that goes back to our original conversation. It's like, why are we regulating so much?
Yeah.
Why do we, I know that there are reasons for licensure, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But government gets out of control. And yeah, we should listen to Uncle Ted Nugent. He's got a lot of wisdom. I take him as a senator over Senator Mike Lee any day.
Yeah. And then
so
the more you
why don't you
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, why don't you just we'll wrap up and we'll talk about the public land in the Senate bill that was shut down, at least temporarily for now, because that's probably been the number one nationwide story that for the past month or so. I saw a post the other day saying, like, we thought social media influencers, outdoor influencers, was going to be the end of our hunting traditions, and they may have been the ones to save our hunting tradition because they were the loudest to speak out on the subject of the public land sale.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people, there's always somebody that's going to say, oh, you shouldn't kill this buck, or you shouldn't kill this, or you should only kill drake ducks, or you should, you shouldn't hunt on Sundays. You should hunt on Sundays, just like any other politics or religion. But it seems like everybody came together for the last 2 weeks and was like, yo, hold on. We got to stop this, and everything on my Instagram feed for 3B was nothing but stop this. And, we deer hunt, and I'm mostly duck hunt on private land now, but Josh and I cut our teeth duck hunting on public land, and we still try to take a family trip with everybody down to public land. And that would be a bummer if that went away. And first off, it's a beautiful place. Like, that's where I want my ashes spread when I die. I'm not being funny when I say that. Like, that's where I want to be. And Josh, and as much as we don't want it to be unsuccessful, we just like going down there. Like, it's just cool to be down there. And it's just a cool area. And if it went away, I mean, it would just be, just a death knell, for a lot of us. So there's my take on that. So go ahead, Josh.
I mean, I got a lot to say on the matter. I'm glad that the whole public and the whole community pulled together, almost peer pressured Mike Lee into expunging it. And from my understanding, I think it's off the bill permanently. Like, from what I'm reading, this isn't a temporary measure. But that doesn't mean that something new is not going to pop up. Somebody else is going to try to weasel some other bill in there, and take, maybe even smaller parcels of land away. I think they were saying 250 million acres of public land they were trying to put up for sale. And, some of us have the privilege of hunting private land. Some of us like the adventure. So, like, a couple times a year, I like to go up to the mountains and just hike around with my rifle on my shoulder. Never once have I shot a deer, but, having the ability to just throw my gun on my back, throw my boots on, head out to the mountains. You go hike 5, 6, 7 miles in a day. You might not see anything. See a lot of cool scenery, see mountain stuff you don't get to see every day. I don't want that to go away. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely don't want that to go away.
No. And then when you do have success on a public place that might be overhunted or you don't know, that reward is that much better. Right behind Josh, right behind his head, he's got a canvasback duck. That's the king of the ducks, the trophy duck. That's what people chase. We got that on public land.
Yes, sir.
Public land, free to go into, an experience that him and I can't. That's a story for a different day. But, public land, put the work in, put the time in, and that reward was that much better for something that we all pay money to have. Goes for your taxes and your state stuff go to it. Let's access it for free. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, when it comes back to what Tracks and Tackle is all about, it's about sharing stories. It's about the memories made. It's about we throw the word camaraderie around a lot. Once you've experienced that, you cherish it.
Yeah.
And not everybody has the opportunity. The majority doesn't have the opportunity to hunt privately. So, right. Big win for the outdoor community. I'm with you, Josh. There's always going to be another bill, work's never done, but it was good to see a little bit of a united front on this effort, really good to see. So listen, guys, that's our quick hit. Hope you guys appreciate this episode. It's a little bit different, but love talking current events every once in a while, and really just like hanging out with you guys. So appreciate you giving me a little bit of your evening and coming on and enjoying the show. Not sure what we have coming up next as far as the schedule. It's summertime, but Chris was already mentioning like getting ready, prepping for it's hot now, but we're thinking about fall, we're thinking about winter, and so we're probably going to be doing some episodes talking about how do you spend your summer, how do you prep for fall, because the successful hunters go out and hunt your hunt any way you want, but the successful hunters put in the work, and so that's what we're looking forward to. Any parting words from you guys?
No, just like you guys said and Josh said a couple times. I mean, if you guys know more about these topics, let us know. You know, we want to learn about it too. So we're not going to argue with you. If you know more about it, fill us in. Fill in the blanks. Fill in the details. We'd like to know.
Yeah, and if these are the kind of things that you guys like to hear and you want us to talk about, send us interesting news articles. You know, send Chris or Ron or myself. You know, reach out on Facebook or send us some of this cool stuff. We're always sending news articles back and forth to each other, so it's nothing out of the new or nothing out of the norm for us to come across an article. So
send us your carp recipes.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you cook carp that it tastes good? In all actuality, it is how you prepare, wild game. You can prepare game and mess it up, and you can prepare game and make it taste good too. So the preparation is 90% of it. But anyway, guys, appreciate you all. Thanks for hanging out with us. Remember, nature is our playground. Get outdoors and stay wild.
Playground.
See you next time.